and here is my sweet cream or sweet corn casserole. 14 little circles out of this. Oh my gosh, that's 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And here we are. I didn't think it was gonna pop up that easily. I gotta get to chopping those onions. And you know what I forgot on my plate? A piece of sausage. Putting this on top. And oh my gosh, these are delicious. Isn't that cute? And there, that's the finished one. I wish I had videotaped in there. Howdy everyone, this is Tricia and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making you some charro beans. This is a Mexican style pinto beans. It's sort of like a stew or a soup if you want to look at it that way. I am going to be using some simple ingredients to create my charro beans, and I'm going to go ahead and run through them right now. I have one more ingredient that I forgot to set out, so give me a moment and I'll be right back. Alright, I've got all my ingredients together and now I'm ready to show you what they are. The first thing I did is I went to my produce department. You can go to the beans section of your grocery store where they have the pastas and the beans and things like that. But I went to the produce department and I got my beans by the bulk. And this is what I got. I got about 2 pounds in here of pinto beans. Let me show you what they look like. And open this up. And this is a pinto bean right here. Can you see that? There we go. That's what pinto beans are. Those of you that are familiar, great. If you're not familiar, that's what they are. Okay, so I've got about 2 pounds here. I'm going to be using a whole onion. This is a yellow onion. You can use a white onion. You can even use a red onion. And we're going to be chopping this up. I'm going to use about 3 tomatoes. You can use Roma tomatoes or you can just use little regular tomatoes. I'm using 3 of them because they're fairly small, so I'm using that. I've got some cilantro, nice fresh cilantro. This is what it looks like. Okay, and I've got some garlic, and I'm going to use about 4 cloves of garlic from here. And I've got this big, huge jalapeno. This is completely optional. You don't have to add that if you don't like jalapeno, but you prefer a serrano pepper, which is a little bit hotter. Go ahead and try that instead. And I've got some bacon. Now you could use a little slab of salt pork, but I'm skipping that because it's a little bit too much salt in it. This does, of course, contain some salt, but it's got a little bit less. And you really need some bacon in there if you want to use the salt pork. Or this is really, you really need that in there to give it that authentic charro bean taste. Now, if you don't want the bacon, just go ahead and leave that out then. Some people use like little bits of beef. If you want to add a flavor to that, you can go ahead and use little stew beef, little bits of them. What the seasonings that you're going to need are going to be some salt, pepper, and some cumin, comino. Now you can use fresh cumin and ground it up if you want to do it that way. I'm going to go ahead and use the already grounded up stuff. This is super easy. I need a pot to cook them in. I'm going to start separating my beans because I want to take all the little bits that are not nice looking. And I got a strainer because I do have to rinse them out. Some people like to soak them in water overnight. I don't need that. I skip that part. I really don't need it. I did it a long time ago and I woke up the next morning and they had little sprouts, so I'll never do that again. So I'm just going to do it the way that I do it, and you can follow the way that I do it, or you can follow it the way you've heard other people do it. But this is the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to sort them out, put them in here, and give them a really good rinse before I start cooking them. So let's get to that. Alright, so the way that I'm going to sort out my beans is I'm putting some on a little plate. You can just put them on your counter, however you want to do it. Putting them on a little plate so I can see what I've got. And what I'm pulling out is little bits that are like little halves of beans. Pull those out. Actually, I've got a little cup here. I was already throwing them over here. I've got a little cup here where I'm throwing all that in. I'm not going to use any of that. There's nothing really wrong with that. I just don't like them in there. I don't like the way they look. And if you've got some that are like looking a little too dark or maybe almost like a rock, you're going to remove them. Sometimes when you buy them by the bulk, there may be little rocks in there. So all I'm just doing is I'm pulling out all the little unattractive bits and any rocks that might be in there. Once I've sorted out my little bits that are here on this one plate, I have my strainer. So I'm going to pour them in there. I'm going to grab a couple more handfuls, spread them on my plate. And I do this a little bit at a time so I can see. Yeah, this is a nice little relaxing thing to do. Get the kids to help you if you want. Watch a novella. Listen to some nice music while you're doing this. And just sorted them all out, and we're going to put them in the strainer, and then we're going to rinse them out. And I'll be back. And I'm back with my beans. They've been rinsed and drained, and this is what they look like. Pretty much the way they were before, except now they're wet. And the nice thing about rinsing them off is that you also will find maybe some more little beans that you kind of miss. This one's kind of like the skin's coming off of it. Like I said, there's nothing really bad with that. But sometimes, you know, you just don't want to see them in there already like that. So anyway, that doesn't really matter, but if you just don't want that, just go ahead and pull it out. What I've got here is my pan, and this is ready for my stove, but I'm going to be doing it off on the side here, just so you can see. I've got 6 cups of water in here, and I'm going to go ahead and put these beans right in there, and they're completely covered by the water. Let me just flatten them out a little bit in there and show you. Right there. You want to make sure they're all covered by water. Okay, so now we want to put some salt in there. How much salt you want to put in there is really up to you. I'm going to put this is about half a teaspoon, this little measurement. So I'm going to put 4 of these, so it'll be 2 teaspoons of salt. Some people might put a lot more than that, but that's all I'm going to put because I am going to add the bacon. Okay. 2 teaspoons of salt for now. And we're going to go ahead and put these on the stove. I'm going to get the water, the heat going so the water will start boiling. So let me get out of the way and do that, and then we're going to cut up some bacon. Okay, I've got my beans on the stove and they are on high. Now I am going to take out this bacon and cut it into little, like, bite-sized pieces, like you would if you were cooking some bacon with some eggs, scrambling it in there. So just cut it up as you want. I think I'm going to actually cut them a little bit smaller. So I'll go back and chop up those about ½ an inch thick or so. Yeah, because now that I'm thinking about it, I want smaller bits. So I'm going to take these pieces and cut them in half. Just cut them up. And then this will go into the pot of beans, and they'll go ahead and go in there right now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cover our beans, and we're going to let them cook for about 3 hours. And what I have here is I have another 2 cups of water ready, and I'm going to put this on the side of my beans because I'm going to be checking them periodically and making sure that there's always water covering my beans. So you always want to be doing that. So making beans is easy, but it does take a while to make your beans because they're going to be cooking and you got to be keeping an eye on them. So you want to do it on a day when you're maybe doing some other things, but you're keeping an eye on your stove. So I'm going to put this in my beans, cover them up, and I'll be checking it in an hour and we'll be back. Okay, it's only been a few minutes and my beans, you can see the water is boiling. So it's nice and hot, and it's most delicious because the bacon's already kind of starting to cook in there. But look at that. I'm just going to give them a little stir. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this more of a low temperature than a medium, closer to a low. Not a simmer, but I'm just going to lower it down. You could lower them to a simmer and just take a little bit longer to cook, but I'm going to put them, if I was to say between a 1 and a 10, if I was going to do from low to high, I'm going to put it at about a 3, so that kind of gives you an idea. And I'm just going to cover them back up. And they've already been here for about 10 minutes actually. So I've now lowered it down, and I'm going to come back in about 20 minutes and check on them again. Now you do want to keep an eye on them and make sure that they always have water in them. So make sure they're covered up really well. Do not uncover them unless you intend on having some water ready on the side here. And just keep your nose also alert. It's not a big deal, but when you're making beans, that's the only thing, is that you always have to be alert. All right, I'm back. It's been about 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more, and I wanted you to see how the beans look, and a lot of the water is going down. So it's going to need some more water because we always have to keep the beans covered. And they've also kind of like poofed up a little bit and expanded, so the pot actually looks fuller. So here's 2 more cups of water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab another 2 cups of water, and I'm going to go ahead and add that as well. And then I'm going to come back and check on them again. Alright, so I've had my beans cooking now for about an hour, and they smell really well, or really good I should say, not really well. But what I was going to say is the beans are still a little tough because, again, it's only been cooking for about an hour, and we need at least another couple of hours. And in the meantime, not that I need 2 hours to prepare, but I'm going to go ahead and start preparing all the ingredients that I'm going to add to my beans. And what I'm doing right now is I'm peeling the cloves of garlic, and I'm going to add about 4 of these to my beans. So I just want to peel that. Go. Just smashing them with my knife makes it a lot easier to get in there. And then I'm going to chop them up as finely as I can. I'm just cutting off this little tip there, little dry piece there. Okay. And just chop them up kind of coarsely. You can do it finely, you can grate it if you want. That's fine. If you don't have fresh garlic, you want to go ahead and add garlic powder, go right ahead and use that. You don't want to use garlic salt. You're going to use garlic powder, and you make sure you're using that, or the granulated garlic. That's also good. Excuse me. So all you gotta do is chop it up and do it as finely as you want. And if you've got people in your home who don't want to bite into a piece of garlic, then make them bigger pieces so then you can just kind of dig those out if they want to do that. Otherwise, like I said, use powder, but it's always nicer to use fresh ingredients. So I'm using fresh garlic. Put that over to the side. All this is going to get tossed into my pot all at the same time, so I'm just putting it over to the side on this plate. Now I want some onion, so I'm going to cut about half of this huge onion that I showed you earlier, and I had already peeled some of it and I rinsed it off because it was a little dirty, so I took some of that off. Now you can just cut these into like really big chunks, and again, just throw them in there. If you have some people that just don't care for onions, but you want to have the onion flavor in there, then you can just drop it in also just like that, and then just dig it out of the beans. But I mean, if you're going to have charro beans, you might as well have some little onion bits floating around. So I'm going to chop this up. And you can chop it up as fine or as coarsely as you want. Okay, chopping up the last bit of onion here that I have. And this is about half of an onion. It was a big onion. So if you find a little one, then chop up the whole thing. There you go. That's about, I would say it's more than a cup in there. About a cup and a half maybe. I don't think it's, well, yeah, about a cup and a half probably of onion there. But that all just depends on how much onion you want to use. And for the amount of beans that I have, this is quite a bit of onions, but like I said, I want that in there. And now I'm going to chop up my 3 tomatoes. I'm going to remove that little part there. That little part. Oops. That. Just remove that. Oops. Runaway tomato. chopping all this up now because, you know, I found the time and I decided I'm just going to do it now. But really this is, you can just do it like before the last hour, so you can put all this in there and let all this cook in there with your beans for 1 hour. I'm going to continue cutting up these tomatoes and I'll get to the next ingredient. Alright, so this is the last of my tomato that I've chopped up. There's a little bit more right here. Okay. Put that on the plate as well. Next is my jalapeno. Now, like I said, if you don't like jalapeno, then don't put it in there, but really this is going to give it a nice spice flavor to it, and I really feel like it needs it. If it's not jalapeno, serrano peppers. You're going to want to chop off this little bit off. Now, if you don't like biting into jalapeno, what you could do is you could just throw this in as this, like that, and that'll flavor your beans. You know, flavor will come out through here as it's cooking, and it'll become really soft, and then you could just kind of dig it out when you're ready to serve them. Or you could cut it into big chunks and pour it in there. But I want to add this in smaller bits. Now, if you don't want that much heat, you could also just cut out the vein and remove all the seeds. That's really simple to do. I don't want to do that. I want to use those, and I'm going to cut them in long. Cut it in half as you saw first, and then I cut long strips like so. And again, these could just be thrown in there. I could have, you know, as I had the whole jalapeno, I could have just cut it into thin little round slices like so if I wanted. But I really wanted little bits of jalapeno everywhere. So this is why I cut it into slivers. And now this is like julienne. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop. So I have little bits of jalapeno. And I want to make sure that I wash my hand really well after this, because I don't want to have the jalapeno on my skin and then transfer to another part of my face, for example, or in my eyes. And I'm already sniffling a little bit, so I don't want to accidentally wet my eyes or something with a jalapeno. So you want to make sure you're washing really good. Or if you want to wear some gloves while you do this, go right ahead. And there we go. I've got it all chopped up. So you can see the little bits. They're not like minor, you know, like mini little tiny bits, but they're still little bits. Okay, put that over there. Okay, the last thing I want to chop up is some cilantro, so I'm just going to cut it about right there. The stems really have a lot of the flavor, so you don't want to get rid of all the stems. So we're not going to be here nitpicking little leaves off the stems. I've seen some people do that. That's great, but you're really not getting a lot of flavor. And if you want the cilantro flavor, I mean, what is the purpose of removing them? Just chop up of everything. So really what I was digging for any little dry leaves or little two yellow leaves, and like these. Let me show you again. Little bits like that. You probably don't want to get that out of there. Just chop them up like so. Kind of get it onto each itself. Watch your fingers. Chop it up again. And this is what I get. Cilantro that's been chopped up like so. Okay? So now we don't have some big old pieces. But if you rather have that, go right ahead and leave big pieces. And again, just flavor it. Maybe just chop it up, you know, where you remove this, and then just the bunch of leaves, stick them in there, let it flavor. And if you want to pull out the cilantro, for those people that don't like to bite into cilantro, go right ahead and do that. But then again, you want true charro beans, you're going to want that in there. Now this is not going to go into my beans for a whole hour, but I've gone ahead and prepared it. I'm going to wait another hour. Well, less than an hour. Less than an hour now. I'm going to wait, and then I'm going to put all these ingredients into my pot, and I'll show you my beans again at that time. I did check my beans, and I added 2 more cups of water, and I'm prepared now to add another 2 cups in there. So I've been adding water about every 30 minutes or so to my beans. So that's pretty much what I've been doing, and basically 2 to 4 cups of water is what I've been adding. Just want to make sure that the beans are covered with water, and it's a little bit above the beans is what I want to make sure that I keep the water at. So we'll be back. Okay, so my beans have been cooking for 2 hours now, so I'm going to check on them. And you can see that the liquid has gotten a lot of from the beans here, and it's gotten a little bit of thickness, kind of like a little gravy in there. Well, not really thick, but just a color. So let's check these beans. I'm going to put the spoon like so I can take a look at them. I'm going to take one, and it's hot, and just squish it. And as you can see, that was really easy. It was hot, but it was easy. And now that they're squishy, they're almost ready. But I want to put all those other ingredients that I cut up, the tomatoes, the onions, the jalapeno, and I want to put that, the garlic also, I want to put that all in here. But this is what they're looking like, and the bacon is cooking in there also. I want to put all those ingredients in here, and then we're going to cover it up for about 30 minutes, and then we'll put the cilantro another 30 minutes after that, and the beans will be done. Alright, so here's the tomatoes, onions, jalapenos, garlic. Let me grab a little bit more off of this plate. There we go. Just a little bit more. There we go. Okay. I'm going to stir that in. Look how pretty that looks. Okay, so now I've got some seasonings. I had already added salt, and right now that I just tasted that one bean, it was pretty good. So I've got my pepper and my cumin. So I went ahead and I ground about a tablespoon of pepper. That's black pepper, and the cumin, the ground comino or ground cumin, all in there. That's about a tablespoon of each. And I want to get that in there, stir it around. This smells so good. Now this extra hour that all this is going to be in here, the beans will cook up real nice. And what's going to happen is the tomato and the onions and the jalapenos will also soften in there and get really nice and flavor everything. So I'm going to keep this at a low temperature. It's got enough water right now, so I'm not going to put any more. I'm just going to cover that up, and I'll check it in about 30 minutes. All right, we've got 30 minutes left. This is the last 30 minutes of our 3-hour cooking time. And look at those beans. Oh my goodness, look at that. You can see that the liquid is not as white as it was earlier. It's gotten some color. That's because of the tomatoes and the seasoning that went in there. But look at that. Okay, so the last thing we want to put in there is all this beautiful cilantro. So just chuck it in like I'm doing. Got a little bit more here to add in there. And this is going to add that lovely herby taste of the cilantro. What I did do is I tasted it earlier again. And I added a little bit more salt, a little bit more cumin and pepper. And it tasted perfect. So I'm going to give it another little taste right now, and just to make sure that it's still tasting perfect. This is what the broth looks like. Look at that. So full of flavor. Nice and hot. Oh my God, and it tastes delicious. Okay, it's perfect. So what I ended up adding was another 2 tablespoons of salt, just a little bit of pepper and a little bit more cumin in there. Just give it a little taste and season it to your liking. This is what it's looking like again. All right, so I'm going to cover this up and give it another 30 minutes. All right, everyone, our beans are done and it's time to give them a taste. So here we go. Look at that. Oh, nice and hot. Let's take a look at them. And there we are. Look at that. Beautiful. Let's serve these up and have a good taste of these. Okay. Can you see that? Let's take a taste. I'm going to get a little piece here with a little bit of bacon and tomato on my spoon. Look at that. It's hot. It's so good. Super delicious. I'm about to make some chicken wings and serve this on the side, but I think my beans are going to be the star of tonight's dinner. And I'm pretty sure my husband's going to like it. All right, well, if you enjoyed the recipe and you want to try these, let me know in the comments below. Leave something nice. And please give me a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share in your social media. And as always, enjoy.